Hi guys, I hope you've been doing well. I'm back and today we're going to be looking at diving into doing a spine tingling dive into Mazzy stars. So Tonight That I Might See album. And a lot of you will know of this iconic album from the 90s, and most notably for their even more iconic song, which is none other than Fade Into You. So we're going to be having a look at this and going through some of the details on the making of this record and the legacy that it's had through the years. So for those who don't know, Mazzy Star is basically a duo that formed in the late 80s and that consisted of Hope Sandoval, the singer, and David Roback, who was the instrumentalist, guitarist, and both of them wrote the songs. So this album has 10 songs, and side 1 has Fade Into You, Bells Ring, Mary of Silence, 5-string Serenade, and Blue Light. And the other side has She's My Baby, Unreflected, Wasted, Into Dust, So Tonight That I Might See. And this album was released in 1993. Some of you may not have been born. I was 3, and I certainly wasn't listening to this at that time. Now, this album is actually their second album, because their first album was released in 1990, called She Hangs Brightly, and that did pretty well. One of their songs, Hala, made it into the charts a bit later, and it was also one of Kurt Cobain's favorite albums at the time. So, a bit of the backstory about how Hope Sandoval and David Roback came together to create such an incredible musical act. Goes like this. David initially moved to New York to become an artist, like a visual artist, and then he found his way into music, moved back to LA, started a band called Rain Parade, and they were gigging. And Hope Sandoval had created a band in high school with her friend, and they were big fans of David's band, Rain Parade. So, in order to get the attention of the band, David's band, Hope's bandmate snuck backstage afterwards. This is what she may not have snuck, she may have been welcomed, but she went backstage and gave David one of the demos of, well, a demo tape of their work. And David actually was really impressed, and he arranged with them that he would actually produce an album for them. So as time went on, Hope became more involved with them, and she actually became the singer for one of David's other bands called Opal. And there was sort of this revival of this, what they called a Paisley underground sound, and that was like a psychedelic sort of hearkening back to the 60s and the psychedelic sounds of the 60s. And I find that so interesting because that has sort of come back again. And I love that there's cycles. It's almost like there's 30-year cycles. And I mean, in my opinion, this sound, this music is so timeless. Like you can listen to it in any decade. A fun fact is Martha Stewart played this album at her dinner parties, so it's kind of for everyone. Anyway, where were we? So David and Hope were onto something. They were finding their groove, and some of the interviews I've read talk about their synergy with their songwriting and how she describes it as like this telepathic experience. And she would say part of her writing process, which she would go around cafes and she'd eavesdrop on conversations. In the evening, she would embellish them and turn them into songs. And with David, he's talked about how initially he wanted his sound to be quite a punky sound, and it eventually just came out a lot different, and it became this sort of mellow steel guitar that we all know that is so synonymous with Mazzy style. Let's just pause for a minute and have a look at this. So this is the insert page. There's her on the front and him on the back. I would love to know who took these pictures and where they were. I mean, it's definitely on a film camera. You can see that. Here is actually has their initials, oh sorry, not their initials, their credits, their names on each song. Roback and Sandoval. So, where were we? Okay, so, yes, Hope was singing for David's new band called Opal. This is in the late 80s. And then they eventually, so they would go around, they were going around gigging together, and then they created an album called Ghost Highway. And this is quite a fabled album amongst Mazzy Star fans, and I don't know if it was ever actually released properly anyway. And then it came, their debut album She Hangs Brightly came in 1990, and then this masterpiece came along in 93, and they have talked about in interviews how they had no idea that Fade Into You would take off the way it did, and they never intended it to be a single. They didn't intend for it to be this nostalgic song, but it just turned into a nostalgic song and a dreamy, otherworldly song. They actually wrote it as if it was in the present. It's just another song, that's another scene that's happening now. I mean, I always picture them just driving down this big desert highway. I think that's what the music video is. But that song has been featured in over 30 different TV shows and movies since then. And it's kept it alive, it's kept it relevant, and obviously with the Spotify playlisting now, new people are what's the word I'm looking for? Constantly introduced to it, and it sounds like, you know, it sounds like it could be of this era, and I feel like it has influenced a lot of artists. Those like, I feel like Lana Del Rey, definitely her first album, Lord, that kind of broody, dark pop. I feel like this band had a lot of influence. So then after the success of this album, they continued to make music. They released another album in 97, and then another one in 2013, and then they had sort of gaps in between, and then they released an EP in 2018 called Still, and they actually performed at the Sydney Opera House, and I'm so gutted that I wasn't here for that, because not long shortly after that, in 2020, unfortunately David Roback passed away. So which is very sad, because he was one half of this amazing sound. And Hope actually still worked with him on her own project, which is Hope Sandoval and the Warm Inventions. And when you're listening to that music, you could easily mistake it for just another Mazzy Star album. So she's released with her band, I think 2 albums, and there's one in particular called Until the Hunter, which we might look at another time. That is got some great tracks on it. So that is the backstory behind, I guess, the formation of Mazzy Star and a bit about this album. A lot of the other tracks actually grew as time went on. Songs like Blue Light, 5-String Serenade, Into Dust. So yeah, I love that with music, how it has these different lifespans and it comes and goes, and it's not all about, you know, when it first came out. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and I will be back again soon with another album to discuss, and I hope you enjoyed it, and take care. I will see you soon.